Chris Claremont.
No, I'd make my own music, thank you. They want me to quit. They say, Chris, give up the fight.
I can stop talking now. So.
Still to Marvel I say, good night forever, good night. For I have written X-Men, I will not give up that story. Come what may, come what may. Hickman! Oh, fuck. Oh, God, I can keep going. This is really... Yes, Hickman did sail through the day in fiery purgatory. Yes, I read those books. No. God.
Well, everybody, Chris Claremont.
If anybody had a tape recorder on, shame on you. Hello.
Hi, how are you? He's great.
How's everyone?
As he's blinking twice. No. You good?
Drugs are cool. And legal in New York.
So, I don't know if anyone out here has read X-Men.
Who's X-Men again?
X, like, not EX.
Oh, not EX.
Just X.
It was a series from the old days when we put monosyllabic, that means two-syllable words in comic books. And more than one panel in, oh wait, we had more than one person in a picture panel.
Sorry. I'm sorry, what's the question?
There really wasn't one. We're just going to jump right in.
I thought that was like 3 minutes ago.
When you took over X-Men 94, which thank you, because that goes for a lot of money,
Yes, I know, I've lost all my copies.
I'm so sorry.
You aren't the only one, trust me.
Did you ever imagine that so many years later you're going to still be talking about it, and people are going to just say, "Oh my gosh, you're my X-Men writer. You made them. You did this. You did that."
They have an Xavier School backpack.
Yeah, wasn't that from
So, I think a Loot Crate.
Loot Crate?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you ever come across the wallet, I need one of those. My customer needs
I didn't
one.
get that.
Okay.
No, I have a backpack, but it's getting on in years now, which is really depressing.
So he wants that one.
No,
I'm
no,
just kidding.
not
So I
actually.
have something else to carry. Happy to.
No, I mean, you have to understand this. We're talking now 1974, 75. We thought the industry was dying. We figured maybe 1980, 1983, we're done. No one knew that Phil Seuling was on the horizon. I guess nobody here knows who Phil Seuling is, right? Figured, there you go. Phil Seuling created the modern comic book industry. He created the structure upon, the economic structure upon which the idea of comic book stores were viable. Up till then, we sold comics through newsagents. You went down, you looked at the wall had magazines on it. You could, there you have Time, Newsweek, pick a stupid concept. There was a magazine that catered to it. I should know Marvel actually wrote many of them. You don't want to, not Marvel, I should say, magazine management who owned Marvel was responsible for Men's Sweat, Girls Are Us. You don't want to. But prior to then, it was a world where from this 1960 on, we were watching sales just, talking about comic books was like talking about Joe Biden's public opinion. It's like, hi, we've saved the world. Yeah, but what have you done lately? It's just, the more you look at it, the lower the numbers went. So when Len left as editor-in-chief of Marvel, I was his number 2. back then, and Len's his separation agreement as editor-in-chief was he got 4 monthly titles. And of course, being no dummy, he took the 4 peak Marvel titles that he liked in the business. But Len also sensibly was a man who knew his limitations, and 4 books a month was pretty much it. So he had this quarterly book that Marvel decided was unprofitable as a quarterly, so they made it bi-monthly, and he didn't have time to do the X-Men. So, since I'd been sitting out right outside his office door for the 6 previous months while he and Dave were creating Giant Size #1, and sneaking in whenever I could to like, oh, this artist, will you get the fuck out of here, Chris? But, oh, you have a job. Oh, right, yeah, okay. And actually making a minor contribution to the story, which was, how do we get rid of Krakoa? And you've got 17 X-Men, for goodness sakes. You've got all an island really is on top of a mountain that hasn't dealt with global sea rise, the rise of oceanic surfaces. Sorry, it's been a long day. So my idea was just cut it off below the waterline and leave it in place while the Earth orbits on its axis and continues around the sun. Give it an hour and it's floating out there in near Earth space. And again, being as this is 1974, it's not like there's a lot of stuff in the way. There were no there were no phone links, there were no TV satellites, there were very little nuclear satellites, there wasn't a space station. There was pretty much nothing. So it would just leave. And by the time the Earth had gone all the way around the sun, the solar system will have moved just enough that when it got to where Krakoa wouldn't be there anymore. It will have been left behind. So, this is when we got rid of it, figuring, never see that stupid island again, thank God.
Did it come back?
I'm sorry, what? So, no, from my perspective, it was a chance to work with one of the artists I deeply admired in comics, since I actually found his work on the idiot intergalactic superheroes of DC.
Legion.
Of superheroes, thank you. The things you forget after 50 years.
You're allowed to. It's totally fine.
I'm sorry, you do know who the prime candidates for president are, right? Allowed to forget is something you expect, like the next breath or a Big Mac from one of them, and pray doesn't happen to the other one because he actually controls the nuclear missiles. But that's a whole different discussion. No, it was just, it was too cool, it was too brilliant, and having looked at the stuff that Dave was creating for Giant Size 1, hell yes. So the first half of Giant Size 2, the first half of Giant Size 2 became 94, and Dave had already done most of that following Len's plot, but now we had to restructure the end to allow for the fact that it was a regular issue, which was smaller than 17-ish pages of. The giant sizes were 35, the regulars were 17 each, but now it's the second issue of an ongoing series. the biggest regret from my perspective is that Len had, his observation was we have too many characters. We have to have a dramatic ending for the end of Giant Size True, so we'll kill one of them. Who do we kill? You know, because Len's point was, in a normal series, you would just go on for 2 or 3 years, publishing 12 issues, ideally 12 issues a year, get the audience to fall in love with the characters and bond with the characters, and then you pick one at random, ideally not Gene, or, well, Scott maybe, but not Gene. I mean, Scott, Logan, Gene, a trilogy. I mean, that would have been icky even when it was illegal. Never mind, yes, I am prejudiced, but Logan weighs 500 pounds, for God's sake. So, thank God I wasn't writing that. Anyway, oh yes. So, you build up a relationship and then you slap somebody down. Oh, wait, like X-Men 137. Who are we gonna kill? Let's kill Gene. You know, and make it count. Worked. And the brilliance was, since it was a decision that ended up out of necessity being made 5 days before the book went to the printer, in an era when there was no internet and there were minimal fanzines, and even if you had a fanzine that was being published, nobody knew what was coming because we were just making it up the last minute, we got away with it. And when people bought 137 thinking, it'll be a happy ending, surprise. And then when they bought 138 thinking, they're gonna prove that it was just a fake, surprise. Well, they'll do it in 139 and 40. No, we're gonna bring back Wendigo. And then we'll do Days of Future Past, and if you thought the Death of Phoenix was a gotcha, I enjoy this. So, Len decided, rather than keep everybody waiting for, like, if you'd done 12 issues of quarterly, that would have been like, we would have been into the 90s by then. He was gonna just slap down Thunderbird right off the bat, because he just liked Wolverine more than Thunderbird. And so that's what happened. And it was like, I'm going, well, that's not fair, but we had to deal with it. And then we, you know, had Scott walking around feeling mopey in 140, no, sorry, in 96, 140. And then...
That was 96 through 140. He was
no, it's just, but the interesting thing was, over the next 45 plus years, Thunderbird was the only one who never came back from the dead. It's like, you know, Wolverine came back 15 or 16 times, Jean came back. Oh, everybody very conscientiously killed her off again. But, you know, it's just, you play with the hand you're dealt, and then you just go on to, if you thought that was silly, you ain't seen nothing yet. But I figured Dave and I, the industry would be lucky if we lasted, you know, we're bi-monthly, we give us 5 years, okay, 30 issues. Let's have fun. Why just assume we're gonna survive? We'll just have a good time and see what happens next. So, both of us were sort of grumpy that we had to write Gene out of the book, just to clear out the old school to bring in the new. And both of us, me especially, liked Gene, but I wanted to bring her back as something more haute couture than someone who dressed like it was the 50s. So of course we brought her back in hot pants, and you know, it was the 70s, dude. You know, you literally had to have been there. I mean, you cannot imagine the sheer, I don't know, experience of wearing hip hugger mega bell bottoms that were like twice the width than your feet, or twice the length as your feet. But that was then. This is now. Oh, they brought them back.
They did.
Yeah, they did.
Called them
So-
flares, though.
Yeah.
They call them what?
Flares. Flare.
Flares usually set you on fire. Anyway, but again, Len's original concept for Wolverine was that he was a 20-year-old and the claws were in the gloves. You know, which to Dave and I was about as practical as, you know, Tony Stark wears a suit of armor. Yeah, but suppose someone steals the suit of armor. Well, Tony Stark will have an electronic device that won't let them use it. And that always works. Whereas, you know, when you have a hero whose power, no one's going to steal Peter Parker's powers. They will steal his skin-tight spandex, which perhaps on occasion they actually should have done so he could get something better to wear, or at least with more cushioning in the winter. Have you ever been in a Brooklyn winter? Or Queens winter, which is even colder? I mean, you may find this hard to believe, but back in the 20th century, we actually had snow. It would sometimes fall to a depth of 4 to 5 feet, especially after they plowed the streets. Of course, they only plowed the streets in Manhattan. If one lived in Brooklyn or in Queens, you were SOL. If you can't translate it for yourself, you're on your own. But the middle word is out.